My name's David Petherick. I'm the Executive Officer of the Bar and Disability Resource Council here in Geelong. We provide advocacy services for people with disabilities across the spectrum and across age groups. If things were working well, our role would be getting people with disabilities right of access to all of the community organisations and community structures that we all take for granted. We need to get them out of segregated day programs and segregated settings and into their communities, to build relationships in those communities, to become contributing parts of those communities. I can give you an example of a piece of work I was doing a little while ago with a client around his NDIS plan, helping him to speak up, helping him to make known what it is he wanted from his plan. And so I got to know this fella, and what I noticed was that when we went out into his community, that he was incredibly well connected in his local community. He knew the shopkeepers, they knew him by name. And yet when we came to his planning meetings, the problem was that and this is a problem with support coordination broadly, I think, is that his support coordinator was embedded in a disability service provider. And so they just kept circulating him back into their programs. And the way they claimed that they supported his choice and control was by sitting at planning meetings, and I watched this happen, and say to him, do you still want to keep doing that weekend group that we do together with our organisation? And of course it was fun. He said yes. But that's not informed choice. They were really leading questions that were just leading him back into disability day programs. And so here I was seeing two different people. This person who I saw in community as capable and competent, being treated as someone who needed segregated care. So the consequence of that is that we spend more of our time focusing on the minutiae and the details of what people are doing and having to help them monitor those things rather than helping them live full lives and lead the ordinary lives that the rest of us lead, and having opportunities to do that. And we shouldn't have to do that. The system is supposed to be, right from the start, set up to be encouraging and supporting people into communities to have less reliance on the disability service sector. We're supposed to be building in obsolescence for the disability service sector over years. But we're not seeing any of that. We're seeing more and more people captured by the disability service sector. And that's really unfortunate, I think. If we think about an example of where I've been asked as an advocate to do work that is non-advocacy work because of a shortfall in the NDIS. During COVID, the NDIA allowed iPads, which was great, for people with disabilities to be able to use to connect and to link to people and do video conferencing because they were stuck at home. Now, it took a little while, and I had to push the support coordinator for my client to go down the path and get the iPad. And it was the support coordinator kept pushing onto me to help him set up his iPad. And I'm saying, well, he's got support workers. He's got funding for support workers to do that. But even then, almost comically, his disability service provider, who were running his classes, then contacted me and asked me as his advocate to go out and help him log in to class. Not just for the first class. She asked me if I could come back every week, and I end up arcing up and saying, that's your job. And that's a constant line that we try and walk, that tightrope of, this is ridiculous, this is not my work, but who's going to suffer if I don't do it? My client. And that's the thing we wrestle with. And we have to balance that with, if we do things that aren't our job, future clients suffer, or people on our waiting list suffer because we don't get to them, we run out of time. So we're in this constant balancing act. So I've been really fortunate to work in the sector for 30 plus years. I am hopeful still that we can turn this around, that the NDIS can become the scheme that it wants to become. The way to sustainability is to invest in people now for the short, medium and long term, so they become more connected, more independent, more contributing members of their local communities, and less reliant on the funding they get from the NDIS. That's clearly the way forward.